Okay, good day everyone. So my name is Anthony Uwandu-uzoma. So today I want to quickly look at a concept that I feel that is very, very important to understand. So today we're going to look at appraisal of qualitative studies. But before we delve into that, I want us to understand the basic hierarchy of research. Okay, so this picture was gotten from this site, from this university here on the screen, and I'm going to get some materials from this site, Bond School of Medicine, University of Hawaii. Okay, so now you will see that at the hierarchy of research, it's good to understand the hierarchy of research. So at the lowest level of research, you have animal and laboratory studies. So no human beings are involved. Okay, that's the lowest form of lowest form of research in the research hierarchy. Then beyond that, you have case reports and case series. So case report, it just means like when you have a single case. So let's say a doctor seeing a client that developed a rare disease that has not been seen before, and you decide to write up that story. So that's a case report. While case series is a combination of different case reports. Okay, so and there is no particular study design in this type of study. Okay, so we also have expert opinions of experts, consultants in special fields. You have narrative reviews, editorials. All right. So now, if you watch that, you see that this kind of study design, there's no rigor. Okay, so there's no let's say methodology kind of. All right. So now, as you go a little bit higher, you will now enter into what we call the case control studies. So a case control study is a type of observational study. So there are two basic types of observational studies. You have cohort study and you have case control study. There are two major types, right? So now in a case control study, you have a case, okay? That means people with features that you desire. For example, people with disease, condition, people with people that experience a particular phenomenon that you're interested in, okay? So, and then you have the control. So the control group are similar to the case group, except in that particular feature of interest that you are observing. So, for example, now you say you want to look at let's say a case. If maybe I'm doing research, I can define a case as maybe all adults that attended primary health care in the UK, all adults above 60 years of age who attended primary health care between 2021 and 2022 in the UK healthcare setting. Okay, and who are smokers that developed lung cancer. So now you can see now for a case here is adults above 60 years, one, attending primary healthcare services in the UK setting, two, who are smokers, three, and then who developed lung cancer. That's four. Now, my control will be exactly almost similar to my case, except in the feature that I want to study. So, my control will now be an adult who is 60 years of age and above, who attended primary health care in a UK setting, okay, who smokes, but then did not develop lung cancer. So because now my study is on lung cancer, so that phenomenon of interest is not there. So the only difference between the case and the control is just that lung cancer, okay, in these my examples. And you will see that case control studies are retrospective in nature. They are looking backwards. So the phenomenon of interest has already occurred, and and you are now looking at the case notes, okay, the folders, the files, the patient history, to look at what happened, how can you, what are the risk factors. So that's case control. It looks behind. It's retrospective in nature, right? Now, and then there is no intervention. So you don't give them drugs, you don't give it, it's just only observation. You are looking at the history notes, okay, to see. While in core study is the opposite of case control study. It is prospective in nature or forward looking. Okay, so using the same examples, now you still have two groups. So you are observing them for an outcome. So let's say you are observing adults above 60 years of age, okay, who smoke and who attend primary health care services in the UK setting, while you have adults above 60 years of age who do not smoke and who also attend primary healthcare service settings in the UK. Primary healthcare services who have access to primary healthcare services in the UK setting. So now you want to follow them up over into the future, over a period of time, maybe 5, 10, 20 years, to see if they will develop what? The outcome, an outcome. So you want to follow them up to see if they will develop lung cancer. So you can see the major difference here is that in case control studies, the outcome has already occurred, and then you are now looking backwards to find out the risk factors. While in cohort studies, the outcome has not yet occurred, but the two groups are one group is exposed to the risk factors, while the other group is not exposed to the risk factors, and then you follow them up to see if they will develop the outcome of interest, how many, so that you can now make a hypothesis, right? All right. So now, let's say you have done case control, and you saw that there's a relationship here between this risk factor and the case. Then that's you have done a backward-looking study, and you say, okay, I think there is a risk factor here. Then you also do a forward-looking study again, and you see, I think that there is a risk factor. Now, so that is a hypothesis. You are suspecting that there must be a relationship between the risk factor and the disease or the outcome. So now you are going to for you to verify what you have seen in the observational studies, you are going to do a randomized control trial, which is the gold standard. Okay, so gold standard for research. Okay, so randomized control trial is here. You are now intervening. You are creating an intervention. An intervention can be in form of giving a drug, can be in form of creating a program like malaria control program, TB control program, HIV control program, doing some tests. So a randomized control trial involves intervention of some kind. So that's why you can see here is not classified as observational study. Rather, it is separate on its own. So that's the gold standard. And so these three types, 1, 2, 3, are all classified as what? Primary studies. So primary study means what? A study that has been done for the first time. Okay, you are going into real life to collect data. You are going to the field to collect data. While in secondary studies, you are not collecting any data. You are only reviewing existing studies. You are reviewing what's existing literature. Okay, so that's the difference. So here, you are going to the field to collect data either through questionnaire, through interviews, okay, or through intervention, designing through drugs, giving drugs. Giving one group a drug and giving another group a different drug, and to see which team will perform better. All right. So beyond secondary primary studies, now you now have your meta-analysis and systematic review. So systematic review before after this systematic review here involves a collection of previous research, a collection of primary studies. Okay, so you will look at the various primary studies that have been done on a subject, and then you condense them into one to come up with a report that shows whether this thing is effective or not. So that's systematic review. So now beyond systematic review, you have the meta-analysis. Sometimes you have systematic review plus meta-analysis, while some other cases you only have systematic review. So in meta-analysis, you are using you are using numbers, you are using statistical parameters. So you are calculating something like pooled odds ratio, okay, pooled risk ratio. So you are trying to use statistics. You are using Fourier plots and other stuff to give a visual description and to validate to get a summary measure of the overall effect of the primary studies. Okay, the overall effect of a phenomenon after doing a systematic review of primary studies. Okay, then then the clinical practice guidelines. So from based on several systematic reviews and meta-analysis, you can now develop a clinical practice guideline. So, and that becomes the so that's the apex. Okay, so from this, a guideline is now developed. All right. So, having understood this, so you can see that in all this, you can see that the hierarchy of evidence is quite an interesting one. So where does qualitative studies find coming in this context? So if you can see, you can watch that all these things here, all these kind of studies, case control cohort studies, randomized control, meta-analysis, they are all basically quantitative data. Okay, so they're all quantitative research. All right. So on the qualitative side, where you collect data that are not numbers, such as maybe you are doing interview, focus group, discussions. Okay. So where you have meta analysis, what you call it is meta synthesis. Okay. So systematic review is also systematic review, but is now a qualitative what synthesis. So you have a qualitative systematic review, and then you have meta synthesis, right? Okay, so that is so qualitative research doesn't deal with numbers. The method of data collection is basically either through interview, through focus group discussions, through observations. Okay, while all these ones are quantitative research. So quantitative research tends to be involved more of statistics and calculations and some stuff like that. Okay. All right. So our focus is on appraisal. Okay. So now the site I am on currently here. This is the John Briggs Institute website. So meanwhile, the links for all these materials will be posted will be posted in the YouTube description. All right. So now, sorry, let me just open a notepad just to have all my links in one place. All right. So this is where we're looking at now. Okay. So the John Briggs Institute have developed different manuals, okay, to appraise the quality of different research designs. So, and the one I am interested in, just giving you an idea, what I'm interested in now is basically the one for qualitative data. So if you come to this site here, you can look at this website, JBI Global Wiki Refine the site. Okay, so if you come here, you go straight to so there are many guidelines here, but I'm not interested in it. I want the one for qualitative research. So I'm going to go down to see where I'll see anything on qualitative research. Okay, so you can see systematic reviews of qualitative evidence. That's the one I'm interested in. So I'm going to open that. All right. So here, basically, they are just describing to you how to write a qualitative research. What are involved. So you can make out time to go through it. Click on this to tell you about the purpose of a qualitative research. Okay, so just giving you an idea of the rationale, the methodology, and the methods for meta aggregation of qualitative data, right? Okay, so without wasting so much time, you can actually read these things, read up on your own. So here they are explaining what is a qualitative research for you, okay? So you can see a qualitative research allows researchers to analyze human experience and cultural and social phenomenon. So it's not about numbers, okay? It's not about numbers, it's not about statistics, right? So, and there are various qualitative research methodologies that you have ethnography, we have phenomenology, we have qualitative inquiry, we have action research, we have discourse analysis, and we have grounded theory. So these are the various qualitative research methodologies that we have. Okay, I think in my master dissertation I worked on phenomenology. I did a primary research on phenomenology. All right, so you can read up, watch up some videos on how to go about these ones. Okay, but basically the um, basically for I would say the easiest from my own experience is phenomenology, the one that you can do maybe for a master dissertation. Phenomenology is easy a little bit to an extent. Okay, all right. So now, so the research methodology is different from research methods. So here in research methods, it means methods of data collection. You can see under qualitative research, what we use for data collection is interviews, okay, whether group interview or individual interview. Also have direct or indirect observation, okay, interviews, either physical interviews, virtual interviews, focus group discussions, okay. All right, so that's the difference, and then you can see that it seeks to enhance understanding and interpret people's experiences and behaviors, interactions, and social concerns. So it's a more of about interpretive approach to research. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. So now we have looked at what qualitative research is about. Now I'm going to look at qualitative systematic reviews. Qualitative systematic review, that means like what, synthesizing various primary qualitative researches that have been done, primary qualitative studies that have been done in a subject area. Okay, so that is called what? Qualitative synthesis. All right. Okay, so now looking at the approach that we use for qualitative studies, let's go straight to, so qualitative studies now is means what? That you have a pool of primary studies, you have a pool of primary studies, okay, and then you give a narrative synthesis. All right, so what you use to bring these studies together is a narrative. You use stories. You are not using numbers, you are not using risk ratio, odds ratio, put odds ratio, or all the stuff we use in quantitative statistics. No, what you are using story. You are using a write-up to explain what you have gathered, both from quantitative data, and then other types of data. All right. So let's go straight to. Let me go straight to this one. Developing a quantitative review protocol. All right. So now here, the review protocol will involve what? Your research title, okay? Sorry. To involve your research title, your objectives, your research objectives, your research questions. Then you have a background of study, your inclusion and exclusion criteria, the search strategy, critical appraisal, which is the focus of our discussion, data extraction, data synthesis, then narrative summary. You can see here you are using your summary measure is a story, narrative story, appendix and references and appendices. So that is the protocol, the structure of a qualitative systematic review. Okay, good. So we'll go straight to the next one. So looking at the title of your topic, your title, of course, I don't waste time. You can always read up here. You can use, your title should be structured using the PICO. PICO means population, intervention, comparison group, and outcome. All right. So, but it's not all qualitative studies that are intervention studies. Remember, we said intervention studies are studies like maybe that you provide a treatment, you provide an intervention. So they are mostly randomized controlled trials. So, of course, in a quantitative research, we don't expect intervention. So what you have, you may or you may not have a comparison group. So basically, our interest might be the population and the outcome, and then maybe in place of the comparison group, you have the context of your quantitative research. Okay, the context. So population, context, outcome of interest, or phenomenon of interest. All right. So you can read up PICO. Right. So now let's talk about. I don't want this video to be too long, so I want to just skip some things and go to things I think are very important. So your review question here. So basically here they're talking about using the PICO format. So like for example here, what are the experiences of XYZ in the context? You see the context, so you can see experiences of what lateral and horizontal violence is the phenomenon, right? Then the context is what nursing profession. You see that? So that's the context for your research questions. What are, you use what are, what is. Okay, so what's the experience of this? Okay, so it's still, they're all in the same context. Okay, in there, so you take note of your context, and then you take note of your phenomenon of interest. Okay, all right. So then that's for your research question. Then you write your introduction. So your introduction should have a context. You should have a context. Okay, you should have definition of key terms and maybe the operational definitions. So what's the difference between division of key terms and the operational definition? So for example, now you say experiences of interpretation services in the UK. That's the title of your topic. Okay, in the UK primary healthcare setting, all right? So when you say definition of key terms, so key terms, you define what you mean by UK, define what you mean by primary healthcare setting, all right? Okay, then define what you mean by refugees. Okay, but operational definition now means, yes, this one is, the key terms is the general meaning, right? But in your research now, what the UK aspect, am I doing my research in the whole UK? No. So I can now say, okay, so in this research, the aspect that, well, even though it is UK, I'm assuming that this research is being done within maybe Leeds. So I'm assuming that the data, my findings might be transferable to other locations of UK. Okay, so in qualitative research, you use the word transferable. You don't use generalizable, unlike in quantitative research. So similar findings might be transferable to other settings, so other similar settings in the UK. So you can see now, my operational division is narrower. The scope is narrower. I'm trying to say exactly what I mean. Now, for example, now if I'm defining the word refugees have many meanings. But I can say in my the operational division that the refugees I'm talking about are only those who the refugees that my research is focused on is only for those who have valid documents and are registered in the UK as refugees officially. So not those that are still processing their refugee application. See that? So operational division is localized to your research topic, and you are the one to, as a researcher, that it's left for you to create that. Okay. All right. So now you need your inclusion and exclusion criteria, and then you need to frame the research gap. So that means you must have read to find out what has been done and what have not been done in the area of your topic, so you'll be able to know what's your research, and then you need to justify the rationale, or why do you want to do the research, why is it important. Okay, good. So having said that, so you can see the next part is your inclusion criteria. So inclusion criteria, what do you want to use as your maybe you want to, like I said in my example, I said I'm focused on adults above 60 years of age. You see that? Then who access primary healthcare services, okay, in the UK setting, and who are smokers. So anything outside this context is not my target population. You see that? So you have your inclusion and exclusion criteria. I'm going to show you an example. So under your inclusion and exclusion criteria, what are important? What are important is the type of participants, the phenomenon of interest, the context, the type of studies that you want to include. So these 4 criteria is what you need to write your inclusion criteria. So let's look at types of participants with examples here. You have the age range, sex, maybe age range. You can define your age range, you can define the gender, define the phenomenon of interest. Here is about prostate cancer. Maybe within the last 6 months, define the staging. That's the severity of what depending on what you want to study. So you must define it very well. Okay. So phenomenon of interest. So like I've said before, maybe experiences of interpretation services. So my own phenomenon of interest is what? Interpretation services. Okay. I'm not studying all the experiences now. I'm studying just interpretation services. All right. So the context, my context was what? Primary healthcare setting. So there are different contexts. You have cultural context. Maybe your context can be based on location, can be based on ethnic group, it can be based on other interests, maybe those that play piano. Okay. It can also be based on a specific setting, like my own was based on a setting, primary healthcare setting. Your own can be maybe in the community setting, in the hospital setting. It all depends on what exactly you want to do. And then you also state the type of studies that you want to include. Are you including qualitative studies? Are you including quantitative studies in your research? Are you including primary studies? Are you including secondary studies? All depends on you. So you state exactly the kind of studies that you want to include in this, and the type of study design that you want to include, right? Okay. So here they're giving us example of inclusion criteria. Okay, so that's this an example. So, but I'll still give you my own. I will give you an example that I got from the internet. Then after that, you state your search strategy. I'll give you an example. So no need of you can always read this up. All right. Then you also need to state how you assessed the quality, how you assessed the methodological quality of the articles that you included in your studies. Okay, so and for this you need some tools like the CASP, the critical appraisal tool for qualitative studies. So I'm going to show you an example of such a tool. Then you need to tell us how do you plan to extract your data. So this data extraction is based on your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then data synthesis. How do you want to remember? I said it's narrative synthesis that you are using, right? Okay, so then I think that's all. Then any conflict of interest. If you are being funded by an institution for your research, you need to state it, okay, and then any other acknowledgement. So basically, this is just the structure of the methodology section. So let's go straight to the topic of the day, which is what appraisal. What tools can we use for appraisal? Like I told you, first of all, even though we are not doing a systematic review, so assuming that it was systematic review that we are using, then you need to use the Prisma checklist for systematic review. Review for, so here this is the checklist. So when you have narrowed down, when you have filtered the articles that you have included in your studies, you need to assess them for methodological quality using this tool. Okay, so it's all about ticking yes or no. You answer the questions here and then tick yes or no. You look at each of the contexts in each of the headings, and then look at the questions and then tick yes or no. So I'll show you a one that is already done. So it helps to maintain methodological rigor in your research. Okay, so you can use it for systematic reviews. Like now you can see it's asking confidence interval. No, you don't need this one because you are doing a qualitative research, not quantitative. All right, so that's for Prisma. Okay, preferred. So let's see. So Prisma means preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta analysis. So that is Prisma P. They just added protocols here. All right. So this is assuming you are doing a systematic review, okay, for quantitative studies. But then, if you are doing a qualitative study, we have the John Briggs Institute's Critical Appraisal Checklist for Qualitative Studies, and this is the link that I downloaded it from. So I'm going to also paste it here for you so that you can have access to it in the YouTube description checklist. So that is on this page here. So I think it's still on the same place, but then you go to appendix 2.1. okay, Critical Appraisal Checklist for Qualitative Research. Just click on it, then it will open up this page. Then you open it, and then so I'm going to open it in a new page. So now here, assuming that you are only focusing on including qualitative studies, these are the questions you need to ask yourself to appraise the study. So is there congruity between the philosophical perspective and the research methodology, between the research methodology and the research questions? So you just answer these 10 questions, and then that is how you assess the quality of the article. So you can see there are 10 points here overall. Here, 10 points. Okay, so based on over 10, you can be able to know which articles how many articles have high quality and how many articles have low quality. All right, so going to see, this is still the Prisma checklist. This is for systematic reviews. You can read it up later. Still the same thing. So now I think, why did I open this page? I think I wanted to share something about forgotten what I wanted to share. Maybe we'll leave it and come back later. Okay, yeah, I was trying to this is an article I came across while I was researching. So this is the name of the article on the screen. A scoping review just describes methods to identify, prioritize, and display gaps in literature by Linda Nyachoka. All right. So, but my interest is just for you to have an idea on what a research gap is. So, when you say research gap, what is it? So, there are different definitions of research gap. You can see. So when you frame your topic and you do some preliminary research in your topic and you see that there is no evidence on that, that can help decision makers. So that becomes your research gap. That becomes why you want to do the research. All right. So when you see that there is little or no evidence from that no systematic reviews have been done on that particular topic, that becomes your research gap. When you see that the materials are out of date or the systematic reviews are out of date, that becomes your research gap. Okay, when you see that the treatment of a particular disease is there is uncertainty about the most effective treatments, that becomes also your research gap. Okay, when there are no primary studies done on a particular thing, on a particular subject or phenomenon, that is a research gap. When the desired research findings are not existing, that's a research gap. You can also see when the professional behavior or practices deviate from research findings, or they are not covered by the research gap. That is also, sorry, they are not covered by research. So that's the research gap, and that becomes the reason for your findings. So these are all examples of what we mean by research gap. When a population is not adequately represented or is under researched. Okay, that is a research gap. When there's insufficient information about a subject or about the accuracy of something. Okay, when policymakers need additional research in order to come up with a decision, that is a research gap. Okay, so you can also have theoretical gap in theories, but then you can also have methodological gap. All right, so these are just ways of, so that when you're reading and you come across any things like this, and then you're able to know, okay, you have found a topic, a researchable topic that many people have said, okay, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. You also find research gap by looking at the limitations of the study. All right, so that is enough for this. So this is the link to the article. So I'm going to also paste it here. Right? Good. So I'm done with that. So we go straight to, so that this material I would like you to read. Go straight, I think the link, let me go straight to page 1. That's home. That's chapter 1. Okay, so this is the CRD's guidance for undertaking reviews in healthcare. So this is a link to the website, york.ac.uk. I'm going to post it here. Okay. So this is a book I've been scanning through, and I found very useful information there. It's helped me to revise, update my knowledge on qualitative research. So there are a couple of things. I believe that if you read this book, or at least scan through it, to give you a very strong background, in your research. So you can see many areas that are covered. But my interest is, you can see data extraction, quality assessments, okay, of an article. Many topics are covered here already. Then your data synthesis. This is both for systematic reviews, that's for both quantitative and then qualitative. So, but my interest is in chapter 6. Okay, this is talking about the PICO, population intervention, comparison group, and then outcome. So you can read it up there. The search strategy, you can see that. Then I'm looking at chapter 6, which is about qualitative data. Okay, so you can see, so chapter 6 is about qualitative data. So make an effort to read it and then ask questions in the YouTube comments. So here, so you can see how there are many links here on how you can access qualitative research. So there are many qualitative research tools that are listed here. So you can trace these articles though I've done a data extraction of them, and then I'm going to post the link, the link to download on the YouTube comments. So these are materials that they can use to appraise qualitative articles. You can see the CAS program, the critical appraisal skills program. So there are 10 questions. So I've already shown you this one. You can use it as to assess the quality of your qualitative research articles, right? Okay, so you make out time to go through it. There are useful information in this book. Okay, so what's the next one? Good. So we are talking about assessing qualitative research. Okay, so let me just leave this one. Let's go to so I want to give an example, and I'm going to use the work of a conceptual review of loneliness across adult life course. So this work was published by Professor Louis Mansfield and other co-authors. Okay, so I found this article very, very interesting, and I will also leave the link. Let me copy the link. I will also leave the link to on the YouTube description, which you can click and then download. So I was going through it, and I found a very, I can say, a very good guide on what conceptual review is all about. So this article was majorly a synthesis of qualitative studies. You see that? Synthesis of qualitative. So here we are seeing how to synthesize qualitative studies. Okay, so my interest in this article, I will not start reading it, but then if you look at what was the review question. So this is the background of the study. Okay, so now look at how this is the research question. How is loneliness conceptualized across adult life course? Okay, now I want to show you what we have designed. So now look at this. So this is exactly the meat of this discussion. So I want you to go through these materials here. So he said there's a review of evidence on such strategies for quantitative, mixing methods, and conceptual literature. We have used an adapted search strategy identified as what? PEEST, which is what? Participants, exposure, evaluation, study design, and theory, to identify literature for inclusion. So you see, what they said is that they reviewed all these articles here that showed various ways to search for qualitative articles. So if I were you, I'm going to take a look at all of them. So I'm going to copy them out here, and then I'm going to paste them in my notepad so that I can read them later. I can trace them later. Okay. So these are the articles that talked about what? A review of what? Evidence on such strategies for qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, and what? Conceptual literature. So I'm going to copy them out and then paste them in my notepad. All right, so that I'm going to read them later. I'm going to read more about them later. Okay, so first one we have is Booth and Carroll 2015. So let's get the reference of Booth and Carroll 2015 in our reference list. Where is it? Booth and Carroll B. So B, Booth and Carroll 2015. BOO B. Where are you? BO. Okay, BO Boa. Okay, I can see Booth and Carroll here. So maybe it's not here. Booth, BOOTH, and Carroll. Okay, it's not here. I can see it. but I can still do a search to find it. Okay, so these are references for included studies. Oh, okay, I was searching the wrong area. So these are references for included studies only. Okay, this is not the whole reference. So where can I find the whole reference? Let me see. Control F, BOO. Okay, BOOT. Okay, I've seen it. Okay, so this is the reference I'm looking for. Then I'm going to save it here. Okay, then Cooke et al. So Cooke et al. Is this one. So that means I'm going to read. So you can see the spider tool for qualitative evidence. So you can read it. So that's also under appraisal tool that you can use to assess the quality of qualitative studies. Right? The next one is Eriksen and Co. Eriksen is E. Eriksen. This one. So I'm going to copy it out for further reading. Okay. The next person is Walsh. I think that's the last person. So Walsh. Okay. W. UVW. Okay. So this is, you can see. So these are articles, important articles that you might need to have a look at. Okay. All right. So now, this journal was very, very interesting. In fact, I extracted some things to use as a guide, which I will still show you now. All right. So you can see from this journal, you can see this is the PEST criteria. This is the tool they use for the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Participants, you see, they define the participants. Exposure of interest is what? Loneliness. Evaluation, what they use is loneliness as an outcome. Then model or framework for loneliness. Then study design that were included, I think majorly, okay, so they said, okay, the study design that included in the research, both quantitative, qualitative, mixed methods, and then gray literature. So gray literature means government documents, NGO documents, other authorities, then type of theory. So these are the things that they use as the inclusion criteria. So any article that didn't fulfill any of these criteria they excluded them. All right. So now, so he said C supplemental. So they said, how did they assess methodological quality? They said we should look at the supplemental material, what they use to assess the quality of studies. So let's click on this so we can open up to the quality of studies. So here they said, so how did they assess the quality of studies? So let's go straight from, there are 4 tables here. So let's start from the beginning. So you have table of excluded studies. So so they just listed the studies there that were included and excluded. So I'm not really interested in this one. But the one I'm talking about here is the appraisal, the quality scores, how they appraise the studies. So let's open this one. So you can see here the quality checklist scores. So how do they assess it? Here they used 8 questions. You see that? So is the research design appropriate for addressing the aims of the research? So for this one, yes, you can see. So CT means cannot tell, N means no. So was the recruitment strategy appropriate to the aims of the research? Was the data collected in a way that addressed the research issue? Has the relationship between the researcher and the participants been adequately considered? Have ethical issues been taken into consideration? Was the data analysis sufficiently rigorous? Is there a clear statement of finding? Contribution of the research to conceptualizing loneliness. So here, this loneliness, you can now replace it to what, depending on your concept. whatever you are trying to do. So they adapted it, okay, from the CASP checklist. All right, so we go straight to the next table. This is the characteristics of included studies. So this is called the table of extraction. So by the time you have done your inclusion and exclusion criteria, and some studies will meet your inclusion criteria, so you have to now describe the nature of the study. So this is also part of what is done in conceptual review. So here, this is a study here. So he stated the objectives of the study. He described the study and study participants. You can see that. He described, watch closely, he describes the type of sampling strategy that was used. Okay. He described the method of data collection, which here it was semi-structured interviews. He described the characteristics of the participants. They are English speaking, 18 plus. So you described the study and the study participants. Then the study design and the analysis, what was used. So it was semi-structured interview, and then the Atlas.ai software was used, and then it was a thematic a theoretical thematic analysis. Then the definition of whatever you are studying, whatever you so this table, the heading, you can change it to the concepts that you are studying, and then the major themes or domains of your study, and then what was concluded. So this is how you design your data extraction table, and then you list all the studies that were that you were able to get after your search. So if you take a note on how to construct qualitative studies. You see, to identify, how to construct qualitative research questions. So to identify XYZ. This one, the aim of the study was to explore. Are you seeing the keywords? To explore experiences, to examine. This one is to explore, to understand. You see that? To understand, to examine the efforts of this. Okay, examine the efforts of one network-based human service. So what they mean is investigate the experiences. So it's a study of experiences majorly. I don't like the word examine anyway. It depends. To explore here, to address social isolation among adults by implementing. So there are ways that qualitative research questions are formed. But though all these are primary studies anyway, sure, it's different from secondary studies. All right, so that is that. So you do your table of extraction. Okay. So I think the link to this one I also upload this on the. Let me put the link here too. To the appendix. All right. So we've done that. So we move to the next concept. Okay, I think. Okay. So to get the critical appraisal CASP program, just type it. Critical appraisal CASP qualitative research. Just type it on Google. Okay, you'll be able to get this thing, qualitative research. So it will open. You just scroll down. Go to the website casp-uk.net. So when you open it, you now go to checklists. Click on CASP checklists, right? So you will see different types of checklists. So you can see there's a checklist for randomized control trial, systematic review, assuming you're doing systematic review, qualitative studies. If you're doing a qualitative study, you download cohort study. They have different kinds of case control study. So they have different kinds of checklists. So, but my interest is what? Qualitative studies. So I want to download this and see what it looks like. So you can see it here. So these are exactly the questions that was used. Was the research design appropriate? So here there are 10 questions. So even though in this study they used 8 questions, but it's still the same idea. They used 8 questions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's still the same idea. Okay. So that's a CASP checklist. Okay. So for the link to this CASP checklist, I'm going to also copy it and then also attach it in the YouTube video description. Okay, and along with the references. Okay, so this is my personal tool. Okay, what I adapted from the article I've shown you. So this is for economic evaluation studies, a template to extract data. This one is the appraisal tools. I think I've already given you all these links. Okay, the thing that you can use for qualitative studies. The main one you need is just this CASP. Then this is the scoring. Okay, so I just adapted it immediately from these guys. So exactly what I've shown you here. So for this loneliness, you just delete it and then put in your topic. Okay, data extraction table, same thing. So for your literature review, once you have selected the materials you need to read, then use your data extraction table to define what you. So these things are in square, means you need to change it to your topic. Just adapt for your use. You must not use all these tables anyway. Then there's what we call quality rating. So quality rating is for gray literature. So gray literature, it means both government documents, like NGOs, documents like WHO, UNDP, all those NGO documents that are trusted sites, websites. So this is just an example of, let me show you. Okay, so let me show you from the paper done by Professor Louis Mansfield and colleagues. So here you have quality ratings for gray unpublished studies. So you can see what the quality ratings can be high, moderate, or low. So what is a high quality gray literature? See, so something that has a high detailed methods and analysis. Okay, strong theoretical backup, and then limitations considered. Something that has a strong description of methods, approach, and limitations informed by theory is a high quality. Something that has detailed description and reflection of methods, approach, and limitations to qualitative study. So that's a high quality, right? Moderate quality is just almost similar to high quality, maybe limited by one or two aspects. That's limited by one or two aspects based on what I've shown you now. So if you read an article and it doesn't meet all of these criteria, maybe some aspects are not met, but more than 50% are met, then you can say that is moderate. Low quality article is the one, you can see the quality of this one here. It says description of methods. It relies on face value reporting of participants' accounts, identifies themes in its analysis, but not informed by theory. That's a low quality article. Let me see, is there another low quality again? Okay, here, very brief description and theoretical detail about methods and an analysis. You can see that. So that's what makes your article low quality, and it's a PhD thesis itself. So while there's a discussion on the limitations of the project, there's a little discussion on the qualitative elements specifically. What's the low quality article? No analysis reported. Methods brief and descriptive. Limitations not considered. That's a low quality article. All right. Okay. So I think we have already discussed all these ones. So we have come to the end of our discussion today, and I want to say thank you for watching my video. Feel free to drop your comments on the YouTube in the YouTube comment box. So thank you very much. I still remain Anthony Uwandu-uzoma. God bless you. Thank you.